Yeah. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ and Friends. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and my guest today is Karen Ranzi, and she has a wonderful contribution to the annual Vegan Health Bundle 2025. And it's about anti-aging and having vitality and having lots of energy at 70 or beyond, or really at any age. Please welcome her to the show. Hi, Karen. How you doing?
Hello, Chef AJ. Wonderful to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I guess you don't mind telling your age because you put it in the title.
I am over 70, going to be 71 in 2025, and just really excited about that. Just love everything I'm doing in my life and just really happy with the way I eat. I look forward to my meals every day, and I just have a ton of energy, and I want that for everybody.
Well, how do you accomplish this?
I accomplish it by number one, getting in movement every day. So I think it's important on a daily basis. I jump every day on a rebounder. I do that for about 25 to 30 minutes. I go to a yoga class. I do Zumba, and I eat raw food. That's what I do. I eat an abundance of raw food. I've been a raw vegan now since 1994. It's been
That's
31
almost,
years.
yeah, I was going to say more than 30 years. Amazing.
31 years, and I haven't looked back. And I guess the reason I decided to stay raw vegan and why it means so much to me is that I had severe cystic acne. And I did, but my most recent book is Bye Bye Acne. And you wrote an endorsement for that book. And I had that condition for over 25 years. And the fact that it was eliminated in 3 months after going raw vegan, first of all, it started to disappear right away in 1989 when I went vegan. And so that was huge that it started to decrease the amount of skin eruptions. But then when I went raw vegan in 1994, it completely cleared in 3 months. And the scarring also disappeared because I had scars on the sides of my face, on my neck, and I never thought that was going to go away, that I had that for life. And it went away with doing a water-rich, raw food diet and lifestyle. It wasn't only the food, it was the exercise, it was better sleep. There were so many things that came along with it. And so that's like the main reason. And also I had IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, for about the same amount of time, also about 25 years. I was taking different drugs for both of those conditions and got off the drugs and just haven't looked back since. And my son had asthma and he was able to heal his asthma. So I do big smoothies every day. I eat fruit, lots of leafy greens, lots of vegetables. And as I'm getting older, I'm doing a little bit more protein. So I've included a lot of sprouts and microgreens. And I just feel amazing with that. And of course, it's low fat. So I still include some nuts and seeds, but in small amounts, not in exorbitant quantities like I did at the beginning. And I even saw results at the beginning of going raw vegan when I was higher fat, but eventually I had to lower it because I was feeling sluggish. And changing to a lower fat diet gave me more energy. And so I do eat fruit. I get calories from fruit, and I do eat small amounts of nuts and seeds and avocado, and look forward to it every day. I have great, quick, uncomplicated recipes. And these bundles are such a fabulous way for everyone to get oil-free, salt-free, refined sugar-free, whole food recipes and meal plans. So It's great. I wish that we had bundles back in 1994.
Oh, I do too. I don't really remember much more than about 10 or so years ago. What made you decide to go from vegan to raw vegan?
My son was very young at that time. He was the first 3 years of his life, he had asthma and chronic ear infections. And vegan itself wasn't working. Of course, we weren't doing all whole food plant-based. We had some processed foods in there, a lot of breads and pastas, and he wasn't thriving on that. And it was really because of him that I went raw vegan. I had no idea what it would do for me. I had no idea what it would do for me. And I did make mistakes in the beginning. Like one of them was that it was too high fat, but we still got results. And as I went along, I modified it and I did research and I created books and I learned so much from other vegan and raw food educators, that I revised the diet, and my kids were raw vegan for about 10 years. My son, who is now 34, he's still vegan and high raw and has his own farm, his own organic fruit and veggie farm in Costa Rica. And I just feel that I wanted to spread this message. So I started coaching for Raw Vegan back in 1998, and I started in 2015. I started a vegan coach certification where people can become coaches. And I love the work I do. I love the way I eat. It's easy. It is so simple. The dishes, they just rinse off, and I really just use a couple of appliances, my food processor, my Vitamix, and I use I use my spiralizer to make zucchini and cucumber noodles. And so you don't really need much. I do have a dehydrator, but it's not priority at the beginning. And I do dehydrate, but maybe only once a week, because I really want the water in my food. That's one of the main benefits of going raw vegan, is keeping that water in, so that even when I use my dehydrator, I am not dehydrating the food until it is crunchy. I want some moisture in my food. I want that water content. And one of the things that I did learn, Chef AJ, is that it's not enough to be eating all cooked food and drinking 8 glasses of water a day. We need to have water in our food as well. And so that's why I started studying about what happens with high cooking temperatures, and how high cooking temperatures not only take away the vitamins and the minerals and the overall nutrient content of the food, but they create these toxic chemical compounds called acrylamides. And when I learned that, that was huge for me. And even for my family, like my husband is not a raw vegan, he's vegan. And so I make soups for him, but everything that I make for him is steamed. So that I'll make vegetable soups and steamed veggies, so that he's still getting food that has water content and is not cooked at these high cooking temperatures that so many people are using today to make chips and fries and all those things that can be harmful to our health.
No. Well, that's nice that your husband's vegan. Where do you guys live?
We're part of the time in New Jersey, and part of the time, a big part of the time in southern Colorado. My grandchildren live here and my daughter in southern Colorado, and we're helping right now. My daughter just had a third baby, and it's a lot. So we're both living and working here and helping out with these three little ones. So it's a lot, and I want those kids to love fruits and vegetables. Um, my daughter-in-law is vegetarian. My daughter is vegetarian, mostly vegan. My son-in-law is not. And so I want to make sure that I give my grandchildren, and they are with us a good part of the time, and they love all the variety of fruits and vegetables that I give them. And so that's also a big thing for me right now, is being able to help with these young children to love fruits and vegetables. And I love talking about raising vibrant vegan families. That's something that I also do. And my book, Creating Healthy Children, is in its third printing now. It's a classic, 500 pages about all kinds of things for raising healthy children.
Wow, that's amazing. 500 pages.
Yeah, it was a 7-year project.
Wow, I had no idea. You said something about a poem you wanted to share. Is that
Oh,
correct?
yes. So my grandmother back in 1921 was extremely ill with asthma and emphysema, and she was hospitalized. Now, they didn't have processed food back then. They didn't have genetically modified foods back in 1921, but everybody cooked everything and very high temperatures and ate a lot of animal food. And my grandmother was sick, and she ended up in the hospital. They gave her whatever medications they had, and she got worse. And at that time, somebody brought a book to the hospital called The Mucusless Diet Healing System, a little tiny book that came out in 1918. And she read that little book while she was in the hospital, and it changed her life forever. And my father, now most people, even when they're sick, they don't change to a plant-based diet because they just don't feel that food is important. But my grandmother, she had an extra motivation, and that is that she was a single mom, and my father was only 4 years old. So she transitioned to a vegan diet before the words vegan and raw were even in existence. She called them natural foods, and she wrote a whole book on it back in 1923. And this was the first time in one of my books that I'm actually including her poem about transitioning to natural whole plant foods. And it's really a beautiful poem. And I've never included it in a book before. I've talked about it in my other books. Like I've talked about it a lot in Creating Healthy Children, but I never put it out there in a book. And then this book on anti-aging, I was like, what is my inspiration for being a raw vegan for over 30 years? It was my grandmother. She was my main inspiration. And I wanted to put her poem in there. And it's really beautiful.
And if you want the poem, you got to get the bundle, and you can get it for Karen by clicking the link in the show notes or in the chat. If you guys have
Exactly.
questions for Karen, just please put them in the chat. Oh, also, people, we asked the last guest this, people just love to know what you eat in a day. And I'm curious, in New Jersey, isn't it kind of cold to do a raw vegan diet?
It's very cold in New Jersey. I'm in southern Colorado right now, where it's also very cold. We just had a big snowfall yesterday. But I still eat my raw food, and I don't eat my raw food cold. I never eat cold food in the wintertime. When I am going to prepare my meals, I take out my vegetables from the refrigerator at least a half an hour before, at least, so that it can come to room temperature. And then, of course, my fruit is sitting on the counter when I eat fruit. So in the morning, I do fruit for breakfast. There was a book that came out in the 80s called Fit for Life. And that book spoke to me also. That book, the major premise was fruit for breakfast. So that's what I do. For 30 years now, I do fruit for breakfast. And it's just so energizing. I've worked with people with chronic fatigue, and they do fruit for breakfast, and it changes everything because that glucose in the fruit for energy is just so wonderful for sustained energy throughout the day. And so I start with fruit for breakfast. Today, I started out with a couple of grapefruits and a couple of pears. And just a little while later, I wanted something more filling. I made my grandchildren some banana chia cinnamon pancakes. And those were delicious. And then later than that, I was very satisfied with that morning meal. And I did wait a little while after the acid fruit before going to the banana chia pancakes. And then for my midday meal, I had a giant green smoothie. And I put chard in there and kale and wild blueberries and some Granny Smith apple and a little bit of mango and water. Blended that up. It was a full blender and it was very satiating. And so I am very satisfied up until now. I may have a snack, and that will probably be veggies. Like I love celery. I could walk around with an entire bunch of celery and eat that. And so I might have a whole bunch of celery and red pepper and cucumber. Red pepper and cucumber are considered fruit veggies because they have seeds. So they're not really veggies and they're very high in water content, especially cucumber. So I'm getting a lot of water from those. And I might have just a snack of those veggies. And then for dinner, I am planning to do a cauliflower mashed potatoes. So I'll do cauliflower in the food processor, a medium-sized cauliflower with about a quarter cup of hemp seeds and the juice of a lemon and some chopped dill. And I'll process that up until it's nice and creamy. And then I've sprouted some mung beans and I'll put those into my cauliflower mashed potatoes for a little extra protein and some crunch. And I'll have that with a large main meal green salad. And in that green salad, I will also put like a chopped heirloom tomato and whatever other veggies that I have around. I may put some more celery in there, some diced celery. And every day I have a totally different salad so that I'm always looking forward to my salad. I'm having different veggies. A lot of days I'll make dressings. Today I'm not doing a dressing, but there are days when I do a dressing for my salad, and that's my main meal for later in the day. And I do eat fairly early. I used to eat late in the evening, but over the years, I used to have insomnia. And the doctors told me that I had insomnia, that it was genetic because my mother had insomnia. And I found that's not true at all. When I moved my meal up, and I eat now at about 4:30 p.m., and I'm finished, it takes me about 45 minutes to an hour to chew everything up. And after I'm done, I don't eat after that. If I really feel thirsty, I might have a bit of water, but I don't eat. And my sleep completely changed because of that. I go to sleep earlier than I used to. I aim for about 10 o'clock and I go to sleep and I stay asleep. I might wake up for one bathroom stop, but I have no problems getting back to sleep. And I really believe it's because now I'm sleeping and I'm sleeping to re-energize my body and to heal and not to be digesting at night. And so those have all been some really key points for being successful with raw food and lifestyle factors over this 30-year period. And so I highly recommend it to people who want to do that and to gain energy.
Well, thank you so much. There's one more question that we have time for because we do have somebody right after you. Dr. Patrice High talking about sleep and weight loss. TS would like to know what's the difference between raw vegan and high raw vegan, and doesn't just eating raw foods cause stomach upsets, or does one get used to it?
I would say at the beginning for me, It was a transition. The increased roughage in the salads, which I wasn't having when I was vegan. I didn't eat much green when I was just following even a whole foods vegan diet right before. I was eating a lot of whole foods, and before that, pastas and breads. And my body was not used to digesting all of that roughage. So it did take a period of time. But after a couple of months, everything just started working like amazingly well. I did go through a 3-month period as my skin was healing. I did go through a period of learning about that I needed to eat enough food because I lost way too much weight. My normal weight is about 114, 115 pounds, and I went down to about 85 pounds. So when you do go raw vegan, especially low fat raw vegan, you have to make sure that you are getting in enough calories. And a lot of those calories do come from fruit. And that's why in the morning, that's my biggest fruit meal. So I do recommend that. I was able to easily gain my weight. I've stayed consistent with my weight. But over time, if you have a really healthy raw vegan lifestyle, and believe me, there are mistakes out there. One of them is like oil. I see a lot of raw vegans with too much oil and too much high fat. And so those are some of the bigger mistakes. And what was the other part of that question?
Okay, the stomach upset, and then what is it in between raw vegan and high raw vegan? Then we got
Okay, so high raw vegan would be more like eating raw throughout the day, like a raw breakfast and a midday, whether you want to have a salad, whether you want to do a smoothie, there's so many different ways to do it. Whatever really works for you and what you're attracted to. And I would definitely say, look at this bundle, look at this vegan health bundle. There are going to be so many choices. There are many raw vegan recipe books and meal plans in there. So, you look at mine, look at Lissa's from Raw Food Romance. I saw other raw food books in there. I know Alana Minta Jordan has books with raw food in it. So just get an idea of what's going to work for you, what you're attracted to, and eat raw like at least until like 4 o'clock. And then your meal, your later meal could be, I always love, and I always say this, main meal salad for your last meal. You might even have 2 salads. Your midday meal might be a salad, but then your evening meal could be a main meal salad with something cooked after it. So a salad for lunch, but then a salad for dinner with something cooked. And that could be something steamed. Like I said earlier, you don't want to have high cooking temperatures in there. I used to think baking was healthy. I don't believe baking is a good thing. It goes above the steaming temperature. And when some of those studies, like in 2002, there was a study on acrylamides, it did show that going above steaming temperature starts to cause those chemical compounds to be formed. So, so staying with something like a soup, a vegetable soup, or steamed vegetables put on top of a big main meal salad, and that would be a high raw day. It would be raw most of the day, and then the last meal having something cooked as a part adjacent to the main meal green salad. So I hope that was helpful.
it was, and I have to let you go, but your chia cinnamon or banana pancakes, where do people get that recipe?
Let's see. I don't think I have that one in any of my recipe books. I'll be happy to send that. If somebody wants to even email me at Karen@feelfabulouswithfood.com. And you can always find out more about me on my website, feelfabulouswithfood.com, or if you have kids or grandkids, superhealthychildren.com.
Great. Thank you, Karen. And those links are in the show notes. Good. Thanks for being in the bundle. Get the link right below if you'd like to get it from Karen, and come back in just a couple of minutes for our last guest today, Dr. Patrice High, talking about sleep and weight loss. Thanks, Karen. Bye-bye.